Glad you tuned in. This is Take Two with Jerry and that other gal who's traveling today, Jerry and Debbie. Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. But my radio co-host is, I don't know if she's in the air yet, but she's on her way to Toledo, Ohio today. And those of you listening on Annunciation Radio, you get the great blessing of three days of Debbie helping out with your on-air pledge drive tomorrow and Thursday and Friday. So be very, very generous, and that goes for all of you. We need Catholic radio now more than ever. I think today's show may even highlight that for you. So when your local affiliate or EWTN holds the handout, passes the kind of the virtual basket, the collection plate in front of you, please give something. We have to have the voice of Catholic radio on the airwaves. We have it now. Let's make sure that we don't lose it. All right, I mentioned today's program, and it is, I think, a very important one. We try and pick topics that are pertinent to your daily lives, and we believe that they're meaningful, they're relevant, they're important. But, dear listeners, today I just want to paint a real quick scenario for you, and this is just part of what we're going to talk about today. Say your son or your daughter in middle school comes home, and they've got a permission slip. And it's a permission slip for you as the parent to sign that says your son or daughter can now begin to start staying after school and participating in an after-school Satan club, S-A-T-A-N, after-school Satan club. These are starting to pop up around the country. The one that I heard about was in Portland, Oregon. But the problem with that is too many public schools today wouldn't even send the permission slip home. All your kid would say is, hey, there's this new club at school I'm going to stay after. Oh, that's fine. Have a great time. So what could be the dangers of that? We're going to talk about that today, among so many other things. Adam Blai is joining me on the program. Adam is a religious demonologist. He works for the Diocese of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, gets called out on cases to investigate possible hauntings, manifestations, oppressions, possessions. He's not only participated in many, many solemn exorcisms, but he trains priests in the church's rite of exorcism. He is a layman who has been called to this ministry. So if you have questions about the devil, his influence, how to stay safe, what you see and hear and read, the movies, how all of this is portrayed, 1-800-585-9396. But you better dial quickly because the phone lines are always full, and today they're going to be jammed. I just know it. So Adam Blai, welcome back to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. You've been on with us before. How are you, Adam?
I'm doing good, Jerry. Thanks for everything, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Good. Well, thank you for making time. I know you're so busy, Adam. My goodness, so you're very gracious to do this for us. And I know we've done this brief exercise before as well, but let's review again for those who are new to you as a person or to what a religious demonologist is. Just give us the 60-second elevator speech. If somebody asks you on the elevator and you say you're a religious demonologist and their eyes kind of glaze over, you've got to kind of explain it how.
Well, my position in the church, I was named a peritus, which is a church-granted title that means expert in the area of religious demonology and exorcism, and that was granted because I was involved in training priests. But how you get to that point is through direct mentorship under various exorcist friends around the world. There's only so much you can learn from books. There's no academic program really for this practical side of the work. You can get some of the theology from, the Thomistic theology of angels, but the practical side you have to be mentored directly into it. So, at this point, I'm a church-appointed expert in religious demonology and exorcism. So that's both understanding demons, what they are and what they do, but also understanding how the church deals with them and resolves demonic problems.
All right, well, again, our phone number, 1-800-585-9396. Again, any questions, dear listeners, that you might have about, the various degrees of demonic influence. This can range from anything from temptation, of course, which we all face and shouldn't fear. Temptation is not sin. Temptation is not allowing the devil a foothold in our lives or giving our will over to him so that he can possess us. So we don't need to be fearful of all of this, but we need need to be astute. We need to be ready, knowledgeable, and really awake to what is happening. So if you've got questions about just the spiritual world and the realities and the battle between good and evil that's going on, 1-800-585-9396. So, Adam, I mentioned that you train priests, and you and I have talked about this before, that there is a growing number of priests who are being educated and trained in the Church's rite of exorcism, and it seems that the Church would see a growing need for this in the immediate future.
Yes. A number of popes have said every diocese should have an exorcist, and that's slowly coming into being. Many dioceses are setting up programs or already have them. In recent years, the U.S. Conference of Bishops, people can go and Google USCCB and the word exorcism, and they'll see that our U.S. bishops have put out some questions and answers on possession and exorcism. They also had a special session at their national meeting in 2011 on the topic. So we're seeing a stronger response and more of an open addressing of the topic. And many bishop friends, and including what they've told the media that have asked about this, have said that it's basically because we're seeing a lot of genuine cases. And of course, the Church is very conservative about deeming a case to be genuine, similar to what you're aware of about miracles. The Church is very slow and careful about these things. But we are seeing a dramatic increase in the number of genuine cases over the last 5 or 6 years.
Now, I want to get into that point that you just made, how the Church helps to determine, what is spiritual and what is maybe psychological or emotional. I want to save that for a minute, Adam, because I believe it was you, and in conversations I've had with you, you have given what you sense is perhaps a reason why we're seeing an increase in spiritual activity, demonic activity, and so forth. If I have this right, and I'll paraphrase you, you said like when missionaries go into a new area, it's new. They're bringing the gospel in there, so the demons have kind of had free reign, and a lot of activity is stirred up, and then soon the demons are gone, and Christianity is implemented and so forth. We're kind of that scenario in reverse in our country. Was I even close on that? Yeah,
that's just my sense of it in looking at where we're at culturally with our relationship with Christianity. Europe has gone further down this road, into very low percentage of people participating in any religion or Christianity. And here, I think, we're seeing that kind of flurry of activity that would normally come as Christianity moved into a culture. There'd be about a 50-year period in the Church's history when it first enters an area where there's a lot of exorcism work, and then it kind of settles out. You're still going to have temptation. The demons are still there, but they don't have the rights to do extraordinary things like they did before. And so my guess is that we're seeing this increase because the wave of Christianity, in a sense, is rolling back. We're becoming more of a secular society, and we're kind of moving away from Western Christianity that's been the foundation of Western civilization for 1,000 years. And, on the spiritual side of things, I think there's probably consequences to those choices. We're still the best country in the world, and the freedoms that we have are invaluable, and they've provided the freedom for our religious expression. But those freedoms, have a cost, just like human free will. You can choose to reject God and move away from God.
Our guest today is Adam Blai. Take two with Jerry. Not Debbie today. Debbie's traveling to Annunciation Radio in Toledo to help with their pledge drive this week. So I am piloting the ship solo, but I brought in my friend Adam Blai to talk about spiritual things, demonic influence, temptations. We can get into things like possession and oppression, just how much influence the devil has over us. What does it take? You might be wondering, what exactly does it take for someone to be possessed? The demons are there. That would certainly be their goal, but what does a human have to do to cooperate with that? Maybe you're wondering. 1-800-585-9396. I mentioned we'll talk about, at least in general, these Satan clubs that are starting up after school. But, Adam, back to that other point about the Church is very, very careful, I understand, to rule out any psychological or emotional or other types of human factors before before she really brings in the big guns, I guess you might say, and sees a spiritual problem with somebody. Is that accurate to say?
Yes. So for many, many decades, basically since the understanding of how medical and psychiatric problems can cause similar symptoms, the Church has required that a person be evaluated by a medical and psychiatric or psychological, but a mental health professional, licensed people, in order to tell the Church whether there's a diagnosis there that could account for the complaints the person has. And then if they feel there is, we want that person to cooperate with that treatment and basically go through that completely and diligently to rule that out as a possibility. But beyond that, the Church doesn't just say, well, we can't account for this medically, so it must be spiritual. That's not the case at all. So beyond that, the Church requires unusual signs to be present that really cannot be accounted for by medical or mental illness. And those 4 signs have been around for a long time, and that's knowledge of all languages, knowledge of hidden things the person couldn't possibly know on their own, detecting holy things, and particularly when it's not obvious. So, holding up a crucifix is obvious, but there's other tests that you do. And then the 4th one is supernatural strength, and that is beyond the person's ordinary capacity.
Okay. Well, before we get to our break, Adam, again, I know that we could do probably a lot more than just a couple of minutes on this phenomenon, which it's new to me. I don't know how much you have heard about it or know about it, but I at least want to bring it to our listeners' attention, if only to kind of highlight the dangers that might be, present in their kids, maybe even unwittingly, and maybe out of curiosity, attending what they're now calling these after-school Satan clubs. What's your knowledge of them, and just basically what could happen to young people if they are exposed to this?
Well, it's hard to say. A lot of these things, like what you're seeing with the black masses that have gone on in Oklahoma, people doing opening prayers at kind of city council meetings and whatnot that are satanic, and now these programs, they seem to be part of kind of like a social point where the satanic groups are taking advantage of the liberties and the laws that protect against any religious discrimination, and using that to argue that they should be equally allowed to do public ceremonies and all of these things. And under our legal system, that's true. And for adults, that's no problem. We're a free society, and other people can express their beliefs and practice those beliefs. And as adults, we can apply wisdom to that and apply our rational mind to it and make a judgment about whether to take that seriously or engage in it. I think the danger with children is that a child's mind is not as developed as an adult's, and so they're much more impressionable. And I think we all know that, and it's pretty obvious that children are more impressionable than adults. Their imaginary world is much stronger than an adult's mind, and so I think they're more susceptible to that influence on their imagination and to make impressions on them. And so, when you're talking about kids that haven't, let's say they're a Catholic family, but they haven't been catechized or exposed to a good formation in understanding the Catholic faith and the Christian worldview, they're going to hear very derogatory, very likely. I don't know, I've never been at these programs, but they're going to hear very derogatory, kind of twisted versions of Christianity. And if the child hasn't heard, the more orthodox, standard, 1,000-year-old worldview that Christianity has that built our civilization, they may take that more seriously, or it may cause a deeper confusion. So that's the short-term danger, I think. And the longer-term danger is to normalize and make kind of a magical thinking view of the world attractive, make Satanism seem like a fun or interesting thing, because they're not going to be talking about the really negative and horrible stuff to the kids. They're going to try to make it exciting and interesting, and that's going to set them up for later fascination.
All right. Stay tuned, dear listeners. Your calls for Adam Blai on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Adam is a religious demonologist. He is employed by the Bishop of the Diocese of Pittsburgh. Our number, 1-800-585-9396. Text us also. Text the letters EWTN to 55000. Your calls on the other side of the break, along with details about where you can get armed and equipped to deal with this stuff. You don't want to miss it. Stay with us.
From the Dominican House of Studies, Father Dominic Legg.
One of the challenges that many Catholics face today when trying to be a faithful citizen and a good Catholic is simply admitting in the public square that you're Catholic. We can be afraid to say that openly because maybe we're worried about what someone will think of us. Maybe we're worried about the separation of church and state. In fact, there's no reason that we should be afraid to say publicly what we believe, because our nation depends on having faithful citizens if it's going to be a moral country. A democracy is no better than the citizens who make it up and who vote for its policies. So let's be faithful citizens, Catholics in public, proud to profess our faith.
For a guide to Catholic teaching and voting, visit EWTN.com/vote.
EWTN Radio Classics is our 24/7 teaching and devotionals channel featuring Mother Angelica, Patrick Madrid, Father Benedict Groeschel, and more. Find them online at EWTNradio.net. Now available on the EWTN app.
We know you like listening to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio, but have you thought about bringing them to your next event? No matter what type of event you're hosting, parish mission, conference, or retreat, trust Jerry and Debbie to make it come alive. Begin the process today of taking your presentation to the next level of success. For information on booking Jerry and Debbie, visit take2show.com, click on the J&D logo.
Father Larry Richards.
You know, I'm from the city of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and both of my parents, both of them, were police officers. My father was a police officer, and my mother was a police officer. They always thought I'd be a cop, too, and in some ways I am, a spiritual cop. But we keep doing what we do, and we come from wherever we come from, it doesn't matter. Where God is calling us is what's most important.
Open Line with Father Larry Richards, Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio.
Hello, this is Bishop Robert Baker from the Diocese of Birmingham in Alabama.
I'm Peggy Normandin, but you can call me Catholic.
Hello, friends. This is Father Wade Menezes of the Fathers of Mercy. Thanks for listening to the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
All right, as you might imagine, we have full phone lines today. We're taking your texts at EWTN. Text the letters EWTN to 55000. You can chat, send us your questions on our YouTube channel. Shannon in Alabama has done that. Shannon will get your question to Adam Blai here shortly. I just wanted to draw all of your attention. If you go to Take Two, the number 2, take2show.com, I have posted a link there to the EWTN Religious Catalog, where you will find a couple of resources that Adam Blai has produced. They are each 13 parts. It's just simply one is the audio and one is the videos with audio, of course. And he gets into angelology and demonology and an overview of things like manifestations and human spirit hauntings, oppression, possession, exorcism, prevention and self-help. That's a big one. And also parenting in a demonic culture. So, folks, get these resources. They are at the EWTN Religious Catalog, EWTNRC.com, or you can call 1-800-854-6316. But again, the easiest way is go to take2show.com and just follow the link that is there. But I can't strongly enough encourage you to get a hold of these resources. All right, it will take you in the order that you called. Thanks for waiting, everybody. Stephanie is first, listening to EWTN Radio on Guadalupe Radio in Houston. Hi, Stephanie. You're on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie and Adam Blai.
Hi, how are you doing? Thanks a lot for having the show. I was just calling because I wanted to know, what do you do when you know that there is a demon near you or trying to possess you?
Well, Possession only happens when people say yes to it and give into it, usually through active participation in black magic, Satanism, witchcraft. It's not something that happens just because a demon wants to do that. The human free will has to be involved. Demons are not free to do whatever they want. They need permission from God, just like in the book of Job. And it's only when we say yes to them, specifically to that can happen. The only exception is if a parent made the choice for a person, just like a parent can choose to baptize a baby, they might choose the opposite. But if you've made it to adulthood and this is suddenly happening, then it's likely not a demonic problem, because demons can't try to possess a person without the person seeking that out and choosing it. But in general, if you're staying away from First Commandment violations, and that means turning to other spirits than God for comfort or information, could be through spiritism, could be through divination, psychics, all of that stuff. If you're staying away from that and you're participating in confession and Mass, then you really have nothing to worry about.
Just be strong and know, even if it's around you, there's no way you have to say what you don't. I appreciate it so much, and I'm really grateful, and I'm so grateful for your profession. Before I go, there was just one thing. If there was, and you knew that there was, what would be the most powerful thing to say? Jesus' name? If you knew that there was somebody that was doing those kinds of things?
Well, the most powerful thing you can do is to stay in a state of grace, go to confession, and if you're in a state of grace, focus on God. Don't focus on the devil. Don't focus on feeling defensive or scared. Focus on your relationship with Jesus Christ and talk with Jesus about the fact that you're feeling fear at that time and you want to be closer to Him, and ask Him to send His angels and His saints to be with you, and focus on God. The devil wants us to turn and focus on him in fear and make him the center of our attention, and that's the last thing you want to do. So try to be positive and focus on God.
All right, Stephanie, thanks for the call to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We're going to stay with Guadalupe Radio, another EWTN listener, this time in San Antonio. Michael, welcome to the program. Hello, Michael. You're on with Adam Blai.
Oh, thank you for taking my call. So I've heard that, Ouija boards can open you up to the demonic. So my question is, do scary movies, as it's coming closer to Halloween, like The Conjuring, these type of movies, does that open you up as well?
It depends on how much you're fascinated by it and intrigued by it. So if you're really into movies about this type of stuff and you become fascinated about it and you talk with your friends about it and you sit at home and wonder what it would be like if it happened at home, and you find this almost exciting, that's kind of an invitation. But it's just going to the movies almost certainly is not going to cause problems on its own. It would be when you went home and got a digital recorder and tried to get ghost voices in your house or something and wanted to experiment with what you saw in the movie. That's when you could see problems. In general, though, you want to be careful about what you fill your head with. And so if you're watching these movies a lot and becoming fascinated with them, it can kind of be a slippery slope into more thinking about magic and whatnot.
All right, Michael, does that get at the heart of what you were asking?
Yes.
Okay. Glad we could help you out, Michael. Thanks so much for calling Take Two with Jerry and Debbie at 1-800-585-9396. Adam Blai is our guest, a religious demonologist. And we're going to start with Mary, and we may have to carry you over through the short break. Mary is listening in Alvin, Texas to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Hi, Mary. Get started here, and like I say, we may have to jump in and get the break in there, but go ahead.
Okay. I'm DRE, and so that puts me in a position of influencing young people in our parish, and I'm wondering what is the best thing that someone in that position can do to try to offset the trend that you were talking about earlier.
Which trend do you mean?
Well, the interest in things unchristian, the demonology and so forth, the satanic clubs, as you were talking about, and all of that.
Yeah. All right, Adam, hold that thought for just a second, Adam. We're going to get to, as I mentioned, that music there. Mary, great question. This has got to be on the minds and hearts of all adults and especially parents and grandparents. What can we do to help safeguard our young people? 1-800-585-9396. Adam will answer Mary next. Don't go anywhere.
From EWTN News Nightly in Washington, D.C., I'm Brian Patrick with your EWTN News Link. Voter fraud and hacked emails are likely to be addressed in tomorrow's final presidential debate in Las Vegas. Meanwhile, Democrats push into traditionally red states such as Indiana and Missouri, where pivotal U.S. Senate seats are at stake. The full D.C. City Council today considers a physician-assisted suicide bill. The so-called Right to Die bill advanced in committee earlier this month. Patients who are told they have 6 months or less to live could ask their doctors for lethal medication. Italy's Prime Minister and his wife are welcomed to the U.S. with a ceremony on the South Lawn of the White House. It marks the beginning of a full day of meetings and a joint news conference by President Obama and Prime Minister Matteo Renzi. And 2 theologians received the 2016 Ratzinger Prize next month. It's awarded by the Vatican Foundation of Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI as a sign of the Church's gratitude to scholars and professors who teach in the theological field. Watch EWTN News Nightly tonight.
The wisdom of Mother Angelica.
Those of you that are Catholic and have gone to confession with quite a load have experienced a joy that no other thing will give you. There is something about hearing, I absolve you from all your sin. Why? In His own name? No, in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So I know for sure I am forgiven. There's nothing. And those of you that are not Catholic and don't have that particular sacrament, there's nothing like kneeling down in your living room or even sitting in your car and with a sorrowful heart say, Lord, I am deeply sorry and I'm going to try very hard never to do that again. Forgive me. Then the Spirit comes along with hope and joy and peace.
For more information on Mother Angelica, visit Religious Catalog at EWTNRC.com.
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio. Debbie is traveling today, so I am here with Adam Blai, religious demonologist. He is an expert in the area of the knowledge and the activities of the spirit world, angels and demons, and he's here to help us kind of put this all into perspective. And Adam, you were assisting Mary in Alvin, Texas. Do you have the gist of it, or do you need Mary to maybe rewind about 10 seconds? Adam, can you take it and run with it there?
Oh, I think so. Okay. It kind of depends on the age of the children. So, with young children, and I'm not really an expert in teaching young children, so this is just my thoughts on it. I would avoid focusing on the negative or the fear parts of this. I would avoid saying, you shouldn't play with these things because there's demons and they can take advantage of that and harm you, because that's going to create fear in the imagination of the child, and that's not really healthy. I would focus on the positive and focus on, the first commandment and helping them understand it's not just something that we recite the words, but what does that mean? God is saying, I want you to stay close to me and only me. And if you turn to other spirits, it can be trouble, just like strangers. You have to be careful about talking with strangers and going with them. It's kind of the same way with the first commandment. You want to stay with God who created you and loves you and not go off with strange spirits and let them know that magic and divination and these things that they're hearing about and the ghost hunting on TV is going off with that stranger. I think with the older kids, teenagers and whatnot, it's better to educate them more about the why of it. If you just tell somebody don't do it, of course the first thing they're going to do is go play around with it. So educate them on some of the realistic consequences that can happen. Don't try to focus on fear, but be a little more blunt with them, I think, because I think teenagers need to understand, the consequences in a more direct way. But those are just my thoughts.
Does that help you out, Mary?
Yes, it does. That the first answer that you gave was sort of what I was thinking about, but I think I was thinking more in terms of teenagers. Because that's where the curiosity starts a lot of the time. So But I excellent. I'll go with it.
Okay.
All right, Mary.
Thank
Glad
you.
we can help you with that. Yeah, and please, Mary, a good resource for you and everybody else might be Adam's 13-part set, Deliver Us from Evil, it's called. And it's in audio or video formats. And if anyone would like that, folks, I really encourage you, especially if you have the care of young people. There's just one talk there that Adam did called Parenting in a Demonic Culture. Two of the talks, actually, I sat down with Adam and we went through the list of questions that is on the USCCB website. If you Google USCCB exorcism, you will find the first hit that comes up should be a link to frequently asked questions posted by the U.S. bishops. And I put each of those questions to Adam and got his takes on each one of those. So those are two of the videos as well. So again, go to take2show.com and look for either the audio or the video of Adam's 13-part set, Deliver Us from Evil. All right, Lisa in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, listening to EWTN Radio on JMJ Radio. Hello, Lisa. You're next.
Hi. I guess my question would be, what if you kind of did all of that stuff you say not to? When I was a teenager, I got into Ouija boards. We actually did seances. I was actually the person that the spirits would speak through.
Mm-hmm.
Practice white magic, not black magic. I remember even asking a priest in confession once, if white magic was okay, and he said yes. I explained it to him the way it was explained to me, which is it's just, a heightened form of ESP. It's a natural gift that you're born with. And he said, well, yeah, I guess that would be okay. So, did the whole thing, did astrology, card reading. Actually, I found out later from my grandmother that her mother was a card reader, and that, the women in our family particularly were known for being very accurate card readers. And I did that also.
Okay,
now, I had given...
Go ahead, Adam. Yeah, there's a lot to comment on there, Lisa. So let's
Lisa, what religion are you?
I'm Catholic. I was raised Catholic.
Okay. Are you participating in the sacraments?
Yes. Well, that was sort of the second part, is when I was about 30, 35-ish. I actually stopped doing the white magic and stuff in my 20s because strange stuff started happening.
Right.
And there's times when I actually feel like a force is holding me sometimes, like fear, but you're actually almost like a physical force.
Okay.
Now I came back to the church.
Yeah, Lisa, let me try to address what you're saying, because we have limited time, and I have the gist of it. So there's no such thing as white magic. That's just a myth. The difference between magic and religion is, within magic, it's my will be done. It's you find some ritual or wiggle your fingers in the right way or say the right words or ask the right spirit to do whatever it is, and your will gets done in the world in some way. And that might be healing somebody. We see stuff come out of Reiki also. So there's no such thing as white magic. Magic is when I want my will to be done on another person or in the world. And you're essentially appealing to some spirit to do that, whether you're aware of it or not. So some people think it's an innate thing in them, but it'll turn out differently eventually. The divination stuff, that's all forbidden strongly in the Bible. You're making yourself into an idol for other people, and offering to give them comfort or information about their futures. So, again, that's a First Commandment issue. And basically, what you're describing or starting to describe there is what we see many, many times over and over. The people get drawn into this will eventually have problems because they've opened the doors to those relationships with those spirits, and until those doors are closed, they'll remain open, and the person will have problems later in life. The channeling of spirits in the seances is probably the most dangerous of the list of things that you talked about, because you're explicitly giving a spirit permission to dominate your body and use at least part of your body. It's the same reason why Ouija boards and pendulums are particularly dangerous, because you're telling a spirit they can dominate your arm or your hand. But the channeling is even worse, because you're telling a spirit they can dominate basically your torso and your face, most of your body. So these spirits, they're going to play nice in the beginning and pretend to be dead people or spirit guides or whatever you're going to drop your guard to. But then later in life, it's going to bite you in the sense of, it's going to come back and want to start dominating your life and controlling your behavior more and more. So basically, what you need to do is formally, go to confession about all of this. I would write it on paper before you go, because you may forget some of it when you're actually there. I have to disagree with your priest that told you that white magic is never okay, because, again, you're appealing to some spirit other than God for power or information about the world. So, yeah, there's a lot there, and you opened a lot of doors. So I would talk with your priest about it and go through and confess everything, and then, in your prayer life, ask Jesus, and in offer up your communions at Mass for reparation for those things, and ask Jesus' grace to close those doors.
All right, Lisa?
I did come back to the church years ago, but they don't seem to 100% go away. Like, if I miss, as long as I go to confession, and like I said, if I stay in the state of grace, but it's like, even if I do, the smallest thing, it seems like it opens a door that is almost impossible to close again, every time.
Part of it could be that you're still confused about the white magic thing, so you're framing it that it's okay still, and you need to understand that it's not, and fully repent of that and renounce it. And if you think it's some kind of gift that runs in your family, and spirits do stay in the same family sometimes, you need to ask Jesus to take that spirit away and shut down all that sensitivity that you're experiencing.
Okay, Lisa, I hope that is some help to you. As you might imagine, we have a lot of folks who would like a little bit of Adam's time here. Adam Blai is the guest today on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Debbie is out on the road traveling. She'll be at a pledge drive at Annunciation Radio tomorrow. So Adam Blai has graciously joined me. Adam, real quick question: Does the rite of baptism include, in some sense, an exorcism? Is there?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it explicitly does. It's not the same as a solemn exorcism of a person for possession, but it includes an exorcism, because the understanding is that, through original sin that we're all born with, created with, because we're in the world, in a sense that is the spirit of Satan. Not that babies are possessed, but the exorcism is against that spirit that's in the world through the wound of original sin.
Right. Well, there was a reason I was asking that, because I wanted to let our listeners know about Church Pop, P-O-P, churchpop.com. They've got an article on the front page right now. Did you know the baptismal rite includes an exorcism? And they also have, LOL, the 7 best Catholic one-liners in church history. And they've got, what else here? Why it's super important to read Bible verses in context. Folks, this is like something you could tap into every day. Quick, bite-sized stories, inspirational reads, lots of humor. You got 8 keys to a better prayer life, things like this. And it's owned and operated by EWTN, so you know that it's faithful and trustworthy. And you could subscribe and get, like I do, get emails every day about what the latest things are. So go to churchpop.com on the internet and make sure you register for that. Okay, John, we're going to go to you next, but I had promised we get to Shannon's question from Alabama via our YouTube channel. She says, can you ask Adam, why is it after mind exorcisms and a change of lifestyle, the demons go away, but then return later to that person when they're doing everything they're required to do? Why does God allow this to happen? So, Adam, since it's not a phone call question, but through our YouTube channel, that's all the information I have for you.
Well, that's not the normal way things go. So once a person is completely delivered in exorcism and the last demon is gone and there's a complete freedom there, they will try to get the person to let them back into their lives for a very brief period of time, maybe a couple of weeks. And there'll still be temptations in the future, but generally the person is real motivated to stay away from whatever caused the problem in the first place. They don't just come back and repossess the person unless the person gives in some way and allows that. Now, if that were to recur and the person wasn't actively letting them back in, that would be indicative that there are still doors that need to be repented of and closed for that person. So there might be previous sins that opened up relationships with the demons that have not been repented of. And that's why exorcism is like peeling an onion. There's always multiple layers to it. So basically it's, exorcism is a pastoral process. It's not just like in the movies where there's one dramatic prayer session and then it's over. And so part of that art of the pastoral process is making sure the person has closed all the doors.
Adam Blai, our guest today on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. He is employed by the Diocese of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, as a religious demonologist. He helps train priests in the church's rite of exorcism and also is used by his own bishop in Pittsburgh and is called upon by bishops in other parts of the country to assist in investigating spiritual cases. And we're talking about all of this, the spiritual stuff today. And John is listening to EWTN Radio on Covenant Network in St. Louis, and you've got a question next. Hello, John. Welcome to Take Two.
Yes. I used to be in the healing ministry, and it was approved and authorized by the St. Louis Archdiocese, and my main ministry was in inner healing. And I would pray. I would pray for people. We always had 2 people on a team, and the person that was on my team would usually intercede, and I would I let the person tell me what they wanted prayer for, and I just started focusing on Jesus. Now, the thing about it, the more I focused on Jesus, it seemed like I would get in touch with evil spirits, and it was like they would come into my body, and I could feel their anguish and their, it was just horrible feeling, but I had to keep focusing on Jesus, and finally it would break, and the person I would be praying for, would be set free and feel a real peace.
John, let me jump in here. John? Let me jump in here. Are you wondering if this is kind of a valid or legitimate experience that you went through? We're kind of short on time, so I want to get to the nugget of your question.
I'd just like Adam to address that, if he could, what he thinks of that.
Okay. Sure. Go ahead, Adam.
Well, we don't have time to cover this completely, but let me just say that you have to be careful when there are kind of healing or deliverance teams and you're praying over people, particularly if there's touch involved with the prayer, so laying hands on somebody and praying over them when you don't know what their spiritual issue is. And in particular, then Cardinal Ratzinger made clear in a letter that went out all over the world, and you can find it on EWTN's website, on my website, guidelines to correct some of the abuses that were happening at the time. And the one thing it's very clear on is the lay people are not to talk to demons. So the worst, most dangerous thing you can do is be praying over somebody as a lay person, lay hands on them while you're praying, and then start commanding a demon to leave them. Because essentially what you're doing is you are consenting to a spiritual struggle with that demon. By doing that and by touching the person, there's a even greater consent for an interaction. The touch during prayer is is really more of a priestly action. So we've seen a number of cases where people had become oppressed or even possessed by using the Pope Leo Minor exorcism over somebody who turned out to be possessed. They didn't know that at the time, but they found out through praying over them. Now, it sounds like you were focusing on Jesus in those circumstances, but if there was touch involved, that could have allowed more of an impact on you, and that can be more risky. So, whenever there's basically look at the fruits of it. If you had that feeling and it went away and you were completely fine afterwards, and you're in a state of grace and there's no bad fallout in your life, then just don't worry about it. Let that go in terms of thinking about it. But if there's bad fruits in your life, if you're having this experience regularly, that's probably an indication of a problem, because there really shouldn't be that kind of vulnerability in you when you're praying for somebody. And again, the most dangerous thing we've seen is when you're praying over somebody and laying hands on them, and particularly if you're rebuking and commanding demons. So I hope that helps. I know it wasn't exactly what he had asked.
Yeah, John, thank you for the question. We appreciate that. We're going to get to as many as we can. Before we take the next one, Adam, you alluded to this. What can a lay person, a non-ordained person, do? I've heard you use the technical terms. I believe they're imprecatory prayer and deprecatory prayer. Do I have those right? And can you just real briefly give our listeners a snapshot of what those mean?
Yeah. So basically, when we pray for somebody, we're essentially saying, God, please help this person. And that's an indirect request, right? So we're asking God for that, and then we wait and see how God responds. So the prayer goes up to heaven. If heaven responds, if God responds, wonderful. And if God has a reason and he doesn't, we also accept that. That's fine. That's deprecatory prayer, or kind of intercessory request to God. Imprecatory language is a direct command. So that would be like, in the name of Jesus, get out of this person. In the name of Jesus, go. You're not asking God to do it. You are directly getting involved. And that's the type of prayer that is reserved for prayers that have an exorcistic, component to them, like the baptism or the solemn exorcism. They involve direct commands. And when you're getting involved in direct commands, you want to be a priest with permission from your bishop. Why? Because the apostolic authority that Jesus gave the 12 apostles is the full authority over the demonic. So we as lay people don't have that full authority over the demonic that the apostles had, that Jesus gave them. The living apostles, the bishops, do, and they can delegate that authority to their priests. And then when the priest gives that command, it has the weight of the bishop, and therefore the prayers of the whole church behind it, and that apostolic authority from Jesus. And so all these factors are very important, and the spiritual world is very legalistic when it comes to demons, and they know the rules very well. Whether we know the rules or not really is not relevant. It's our job to know them before we engage in these things, and the demons will not be obedient unless that apostolic authority is operating.
All right, well, we're coming to the close here in just a few minutes of our 55 minutes of this conversation with Adam Blai. Dear listeners, you want more of this. I'm going to put words in your mouth. I really would strongly encourage you, again, to get the audio or the video set, 13 parts. Adam goes through all of this and much, much more, and it's available from the people you trust at the EWTN Religious Catalog. So log on to take2show.com, and under the description, right above Adam's photo on today's show description, is a link to the Religious Catalog, or you can call 1-800-854-6316. Again, 13-part, either audio CDs or video DVDs, and the whole set is titled Deliver Us from Evil. That's at the EWTN Religious Catalog. All right, Adam, we got a note from Debbie, who's in the Phoenix airport, but I'll save that until after we talk to Chris in West Palm Beach, Florida, listening on EWTN.com. Hi, Chris. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. We've got about 2 minutes, so we wanted to help you out.
Okay, my question is, my older son is very into black metal and death metal music and all the paraphernalia that goes along with it, and I'm very concerned, and he doesn't seem to accept my take that it opens him up. Am I wrong, or is this a problem, and what should I do?
Depends on which bands he's dealing with. So some of the stuff from Northern Europe and the Scandinavian countries
Exactly.
is explicitly satanic, and they fully admit that they're Satanists themselves. And so the music and lyrics is designed to influence, and spiritually is intended to influence. You can think of it as a form of black magic itself. So that stuff, you have to understand I would say it's dangerous. It's not going to open you up to becoming possessed, but it's going to start, it's a slippery slope, and it's going to, get these ideas going. Music is very emotional, and it's going to get the feelings going, and make it an exciting, attractive idea, and set a person up later for, when the next opportunity comes, they're going to be more likely to go with it.
And he says to me, if I'm so accepting, I should accept these people's religion of whatever they're into, And it just makes me very uneasy. I don't like it in my house.
Yep, I understand.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Well,
sure.
Oh, all right, Chris. Yeah, I wish we had more time to really go into that with you, but I would certainly seek out some local assistance. You're in West Palm Beach, Florida. Got to be some good priest counsel that you could find in that area. Ray and the others, I apologize that we're just simply not going to be able to get to you on the program today. It just passes all too quickly, but I mentioned Adam at the start of the show. Debbie is usually on with me, as you know. She's headed to a Catholic Radio Pledge Drive at Annunciation Radio. So she sent a text, which anybody can do. Text the letters EWTN to 55000. And Debbie says, "Hi, it's Debbie in the Phoenix airport waiting to board for Toledo. Adam, you are very much needed in this world. For us, your ministry helps us to understand the very nature of evil and what we can do to protect ourselves. Miss you both, but I'm listening intently." So Debbie's been with us, Adam, even if not right here on the radio.
Well, cool. Have a good flight, Debbie.
All right, and your website, Adam. Give out your website for people to find out more. I know you're busy. You can't answer all the people to contact you, but you got a manual for priests that could help them if they confirm that they're a priest, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so my website's religiousdemonology.com. It's just an informational website. It gives all the basics there. And then if there's Catholic priests that are interested, I have a pastoral manual for dealing with all the case types. It's free to any priest. Once I'm able to confirm, or Jerry can confirm that you're actually a priest in good standing, I'll email it to you as a PDF.
All right. Adam, thanks so much. Our prayers are with you. We're going to ask all of our listeners to pray for you and the priests who are involved in these the front lines of doing this, and our bishops. God bless you for answering the call, Adam, and thanks for being with us on the show today. We appreciate it.
God bless you too, Jerry. Goodbye.
Okay, again, folks, go to take2show.com. EWTN Religious Catalog has Deliver Us from Evil, the 13-part audio or video set, or call right now, 1-800-854-6316. Tomorrow, do you believe in conspiracies like UFOs, rigged elections, weather modification, stuff like that? Be with us. We'll talk about it. God bless.